right? Wow. Okay. Books open page 54 of your books, please, dear friends.
What are we starting today?
We're starting a new topic, the details of kosher. Oh, wow. We have a lot to say on this topic. We're going to do a lot today. Get your notebooks out, phones away, please. Computers only up to blank pages. What does the word kosher even mean? What does the word kosher mean? You've all heard it before?
Kippur, Shavuot, Rosh Hashanah.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
What?
Yeah, that's an acronym, but that's not what it means. Very nice. Very good, Leo. Very good. What does the word kosher actually mean, though?
Preserve or something.
What?
Is it to keep or preserve?
Not really. It means fit for use. Fit for use. So it doesn't only mean food. You could have tefillin that are kosher. You could have talit that is kosher. Things that are fit for use. Obviously today we're going to talk about kosher in terms of what you eat. Now if you remember, we discussed the different types of mitzvot. We discussed chokim, mishpatim, and eidut. Which of the three does kosher fall under? Which of the three does kosher fall under? Yes, Leah?
No.
I'll just say it.
No, you raised your hand, no?
Hand it over to Mackenzie.
Oh, the decrees one.
The decrees one, which is called what? Which is called?
No, the last one.
No, it's the decrees one. It's a chok.
Oh, chok, yeah.
It's a chok.
I was gonna say that.
I knew you were going to say it, but you didn't say it, so you missed your opportunity.
I did.
You did. All right, there'll be other opportunities. Don't worry, today you have a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of stuff you've heard before. It's a chok. It's a statute. We do not know the reason for this mitzvah. Although the Torah does give us a reason. The Torah says you should keep kosher because we are an Am Kadosh. We're a holy nation. We're a holy nation. That's what it says. You have to understand what that means, and we will. And although it's a chok, which means we do not know the reason for it, we're going to see some Kabbalah today, if we get there, God willing, that is going to give you reasons for kosher. So maybe the reason we don't know the reason is because the real reason we keep kosher is on such a spiritual level that it's directly involved in the soul, and the Torah does not get involved in that directly, but the Kabbalah, mysticism does. Okay, so we're going to look at some unifying traits that only kosher food have. Okay?
Wait, what does that say?
Chok.
No, and below it, the Hebrew.
Fit for use, Am Kadosh, holy nation.
Wait,
Good morning.
Why'd you read Am Kadosh again?
Because that's the reason. The Torah says keep kosher because you're a holy nation. We'll talk about more about that later.
So we kind of have a reason?
Well, that's not really a reason, is it? That's just a purpose. That's a purpose. Okay? What's going to do with food? But we are going to weirdly see some reasons for kosher. The Ramban and other mystics, Kabbalists, are going to give us some reasons for it. So although on a surface level we don't know the reason, we're going to see some. Okay? So that's going to be today's discussion. So let's start. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's talk about, first of all, the verses in the Torah that discuss it. And then let's go through the laws of kosher, running through the various creatures. Look in Vayikra in your books, page 54. It says, Dibro b'nei Israel, speak to the Jewish people, Lemor saying, Zot hachaya asher tochlu, these are the animals you can eat, Mikol ha'behema sh'chal, from all creatures on the earth, called mafreset parsa. Mafreset parsa. Write that down. So now we're talking about animals. We'll start with animals. Mafreset parsa. In order for an animal to be kosher, it must have mafreset parsa. But not only that, also, and this goes in tandem, shosat shesa. Shosat shesa. It needs to have these. This means anybody know? what makes an animal kosher? You can have two signs. This is one of them. Split hooves.
Is that Aleph? Shin Aleph?
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, really spell it like this. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Shusat shesa. Split hooves. Needs to have a split hoof. And shusat means a total split hoof. The foot of the animal must be not only split but totally split, which means there are creatures that are split but not totally split in their foot. And what is that? For example, a cow is fully split, but a camel is split but has a webbing on the bottom, which probably allows it to prance around on sand nicely, and so it is not kosher. It's split but not totally split through. So it needs both of these, and these are one.
Wait, that both of them mean split hooves?
Split hoof but totally split right through.
Oh.
They both mean the same thing?
There's a description of the split. It's split and split right through. Okay?
So which one is which?
Mafreset parasa is split. Shosat shesa is totally split. Okay? That's one trait it needs to have. What else does a kosher animal need to have? It needs to have a ruminate, which means to chew the cud. Malat gera. Malat gera. Which means to chew the cud. That means it chews, then it swallows, it goes into a stomach, it then comes back after going through the digestive process, goes back into the mouth, it's chewed again, and then it goes back into another stomach, and then it passes through as waste. That's another trait every kosher animal must have.
But why is that?
We don't know, it's a hook. But we're going to see a unifying trait in a minute. But it needs to have these two. Okay, so I'm going to give you an animal, and you tell me whether it has neither, one, or both. If it has both, it's kosher. If it has one, it's not kosher. Okay? If it has neither, obviously it's not kosher as well. You ready? Cow. It has mafresa parasa, shosat shesa, and malagera. Both. Goat. Kosher. Elephant.
Giraffe is kosher.
I didn't say giraffe, I said elephant. Don't run ahead of me. Elephant is not kosher. You're from South Africa, right? Yeah. You don't see Jews tucking into elephant, by the way. No. Elephant's got neither. It's got neither. Giraffe.
Kosher.
Giraffes are kosher. Why don't we eat giraffes?
Because we don't know when to shut.
That's not true.
No, because
That's a myth. They know exactly where to cut it. It's just,
it's too tall.
it's a, no. It's endangered species. You can't walk around, right, killing giraffes and eating them. But if there were a situation where, you know, you're allowed to kill them and they're not endangered species, totally kosher. They know where to shecht it. That's a complete myth. They know where to shecht it, and that's totally okay. Pig.
No, kosher.
Pig.
It has the leg, the thing.
It has the
But
leg.
it doesn't have the other.
Right. So actually, the pig is the same as any other non-kosher animal, but it stands out a bit more. Why do we always choose the pig as the one to really represent non-kosher? Because it looks kosher on the outside. It's got the split hooves. But on the inside it's not. We don't like that. It's very hypocritical. Because it looks got split hooves on the outside. Look at me, I'm kosher, I'm kosher. And it puts out his hooves, but on the inside it's not. We don't like that trait. It's a very dishonest animal. Although eating any other non-kosher animal, actually eating a non-kosher insect is probably worse than eating a pig. Technically speaking, in Judaism, yeah.
7 times.
Because there are various other traits that insects have. They fly, they creep, crawl, which adds to the prohibition. We're going to come to that in a second. You're jumping around. A certain type of locust and cricket you are allowed to cut up. That's absolutely correct. We're going to come there in a second. Okay, that's animals. Next comes...
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah! What's your question?
So why are we allowed to eat like seafood?
What? We're not on seafood yet, we're getting there. We just did animals, okay? Good.
There aren't seafood animals.
No, they're water creatures. So we're going to get there in a second. So what comes after this? Okay, let's do it now then. Let's do sea creatures. Sea creatures are a different type of animal. What do sea creatures need to have in order to be kosher?
Scales and fish.
Let's do the Hebrew words so you know them. You're in Judaic Studies class, university. Let's learn some Hebrew. Fins and scales. Snapir and kasket. Fins and scales. Alicia, there's your question. You're excited today. Fins and scales. It needs to have both. It needs to have both fins and scales. Okay? Now, happens to be that some creatures have neither. Some have both, and some have one.
Has to have both.
But it must have both.
What is that? What is that?
Snapir and kasket. Fins and scales. Happens to be, my dear friends, that if a sea creature, kasket, has a fin, it doesn't automatically have scales. But if it has scales, it has to have fins. And that's going to be very important when it comes to finding kosher food.
But can you repeat that, please?
Yes. We know, the Torah says so, the Gemara says so, but we see it in life, obviously, is that creatures that have fins may not have scales. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Like a shark. Do sharks have fins?
Yes.
Yeah. Do they have scales?
No.
No. They do not. They're not kosher. But if you see a creature in the supermarket, it's all cut up, and you can't see if the fin is there, but you see scales, you can eat it, because if it has scales, it'll automatically have fins. That's just the way it is. So all sea creatures which do not have these two symbols, these two, actually this is the right word, these are called the simanim. Simanim means signs. It needs to have these two signs in order to be kosher. In order to be kosher. All right? So, wow, 3 hands are at the same time. Lady, you went first, amazingly.
Sure. I thought they also couldn't be a bottom feeder.
If you found a bottom feeder that has fins and scales, it would be kosher. There is absolutely. It's these signs that make it kosher and nothing else. Happens to be that most creatures that are kosher are not bottom feeders. But, we mentioned this before, the laws of kosher are not anything to do with health. That means they eat off the ocean floor and they're gross and disgusting. So nothing to do with that. There's nothing written anywhere that kosher has to do with health. You can eat very kosher food and be unhealthy, and you can eat non-kosher food and be unhealthy. Nowhere does it say anything to do with healthy. It's to do with your neshama. It affects the soul. Kosher is the real soul food.
Does it affect like non-Jews also?
No.
I had a teacher who was non-Jewish, and he was like, "Yeah, I only like eat kosher."
Happens to be that without the non-kosher market, kosher would not be, because a lot of non-kosher food, we'll see that a lot of kosher food that ends up being not kosher for various reasons ends up in the non-kosher market. But it's nothing to do with health. Nothing to do with health. I mean, thank goodness they buy it, because otherwise that they wouldn't have a very big market. Yes?
But there are different types of scales that a fish can have, right? So like, how do you decipher?
There are?
Yeah, are there?
I don't think so.
Soft scales.
Oh,
like-
any form of scale is considered scale.
Oh, okay.
Now, some creatures only have scales in the water, not out of the water, like swordfish, I believe.
Yeah.
So it depends what's going on with their flight. So there, it becomes a little bit tricky, but usually we lean towards them not being kosher. We lean towards them not being kosher. But a scale is a scale. Soft otherwise. And sharks just don't have scales in any way, shape, or form. Okay? Those are the two traits. So eel, crab, salmon,
Yeah.
gefilte fish.
Gross.
No.
How do you know a gefilte fish is swimming through the water? It's got a little carrot on its head.
That's the cute.
That's the kippah, right?
I never saw. I don't know what it looks like.
Gefilte fish is basically an amalgamation stuck together of other pieces of fish because people couldn't afford a real fish. They used to like grab other pieces and stick together a little patty. That's disgusting. Okay.
No, I've had it. I'm saying I don't know what the actual. I've had it, but I'm saying the actual fish itself.
It's not a fish. It's a stuck. There is a thing called gefilte fish. I'm telling you.
She's not the fish.
There is a gefilte fish. Gefilte fish is basically other fishes, white fish, they just stick together, add lots of sugar, put it into a log, cut it up, and ruin your shabra suda. Yes, Mackenzie.
I can like identify by looking at it.
What?
When I buy a salmon from like a fishmonger with other fishes that are not kosher.
Yeah, you can. If it's got scales on it, you're okay. If it's missing the scales and the fins,
Why? What if?
and then there's a problem.
Like,
Whoa, what?
What if they're cutting it with the
לא
same?
ניתן לשאלה.
So that's a question of kashrut in terms of that. If you make them because it's cold, if they wipe the knife beforehand, or if you just rinse it with cold water, you're okay. It's only heat and liquid we'll see that's going to transfer taste into other foods. So you are actually technically allowed to buy over there, right? And usually they cut so many of the same fish it wipes off, so it's okay. You will be permitted to do that.
So you can eat not kosher like sushi,
I didn't say that.
like at
Whoa.
sashimi. Let's
That's
say.
very big. If you could be sure, but that's difficult because you're not seeing the fins or scales. Okay? In a mass supermarket, they're just producing lots of fish, but over there, the knives are used for hot things as well. That can be problematic. But if you could see with fins and scales and watch when they wipe the knife beforehand, technically it would work.
So like, even if the fish is kosher, like you can tell them, I only want this in the roll, and this in the roll, and this in the roll.
Once again,
It's all kosher.
Once again, if you could verify that that salmon is really salmon because it's got no fins or scales on it, it's tricky. I'm talking about if you
Salmon
actually.
doesn't look so much like other fish.
But like you ask.
But
for
maybe they
salmon,
color other fish in order to sell it for more, which is being done. Not so simple, my friends. It's not so simple, right? You're trusting people over here. You're trusting people. Okay.
One question.
Yeah.
If it has scales,
Yeah.
then it already has fins. So why do we say fins and scales?
Very good question. I've had them before. I'm not really sure. There's a reason why. I can't remember exactly, but there's a reason why that is actually. Right? I think in order to make it clear. You're right. That's the answer. I mean, you're right. Once it just says scales,
Maybe
it
there
must have
is
fins.
one fish that only has.
Could be. Maybe it's not discovered. Could be.
Lobsters have fins, don't they?
Lobsters have what now?
Fins? They have
Fins. It's a crustacean.
No, what? Don't they have like? Fins?
They have claws.
Google it.
By the way, one thing I cannot stand. People say, oh, if I could eat non. By the way, you should know, the Gemara says a person shouldn't say, ugh, non-kosher food, disgusting. You shouldn't say that. Say, oh, that looks great. That steak, right? That non-kosher burger. I wish I could eat it, but Hashem said, I got to keep shy. I don't, so I can't eat it. But you shouldn't say I keep kosher because it's disgusting. It's not. Nothing wrong with it. It's just we're not allowed to eat it. That's it. That's what Rabbi Gamliel says to us in the Gemara, or Rabbi Yosef Glili, maybe, I can't remember, it was one of those two. Said, don't say that. Hashem made these things, they're not for us. They're delicious foods. Except lobster, that's a big cockroach, I don't understand. There's all these people sitting there with their pajamas on, cracking them open,
One little
shrimp.
Oh yeah, that's the underwater cockroach.
Whatever. Not for us, but it's for them. Okay, shh. Birds. Those are fish. Birds. What makes a bird kosher?
It has to be a bird of prey.
No.
3.
Cannot be a
So, when it comes to birds, it's actually a little bit tricky. Because the Torah does not give us simanim. It gives us a list. Gives us a list of birds that are not kosher. The problem is, right, basically what we call, there is a mesorah. There is a tradition of what these birds actually are. We're not too sure about today what a lot of these Hebrew words of the Torah, actually there's different opinions I should say, but we know for sure various birds that make this list. Now remember, keeping kosher is not a mitzvah. Aseh, it's a mitzvah not aseh. You're not allowed to eat this list. So if it doesn't appear in this list, you can eat it. So an owl is a no. Yeah? A hawk is a no. Yeah? An eagle is a no. But then we have a tradition about other types of birds, which are okay. Duck No, duck. Okay, right. Duck is one. What else?
Duck
Whale.
is kosher?
No.
Whale is kosher.
Pigeon. Turkey.
Pigeon. Now, turkey is a very interesting one. Turkey, and of course chicken, but turkey, there was a discussion in America because they came to this country and they hadn't seen this bird before. How do you know, pigeon kosher, how do they know that this turkey thing is kosher? Happens to be, weird enough, they had a big discussion, they related it and connected it. Many people have been eating turkey, there was a Masorah, plus they connected it somehow to chicken or to hen, I can't remember exactly, and turkeys are kosher. Happily, the Rosh Hashiva, Rav Hershel Schachter, has a tradition in his family, and only his family, they don't eat turkey.
Wow.
But he still supervises, and says, that's a tradition in his family, they don't eat turkey. That's a Masorah. That's only for his family. That is not halacha
What's the
for
reason?
anybody else. It wasn't a clear, and his family had a tradition not to eat turkey, but that's very unusual. Everyone eats turkey. It is totally 1000% kosher. Okay? So bats, all flying creatures, need to have a Masorah, a tradition, because there are no signs in the animal itself. Although you did say something a minute ago. Did you say lay? You said bird of prey. Bird of prey is yes or no?
It's okay.
It's not okay.
But not the predators. Those are the bad ones. The birds of prey are the ones.
Oh, those actually, yeah, birds of prey. Those which are preyed upon,
Yeah.
not the predator. Yes, those are okay. That's correct.
So
Those which are preyed upon are kosher. We'll see why. That is not a coincidence, Leah. Do you mind closing the door? Actually, I'm sorry, sorry, I apologize. You can stay inside. Just close the door. Okay, so that's going to be a very important point, because we're going to see a unifying trait when it comes to all kosher animals. Can anyone see it so far?
they're not the predators.
They're not the predator. They are the prey. They are preyed upon. Okay. Now, I want to make a statement and be very clear. You've all heard the expression of, you are what you eat. This is not true. Because I eat chicken, I eat a chicken. I eat cow, and I'm not a cow. But, what you eat impacts who you are. Okay? That means the food you take in and ingest is somehow going to affect your neshama, and if it affects your neshama, it's going to affect your personality as well. There's many other laws of kashrut. We'll do a couple more. Also, you cannot eat the blood. You're not allowed no blood of an animal. That is a Torah prohibition. Why? Ki hadam nefesh. Because the blood is considered to be the soul, and that's why when it comes to animals and chicken, birds, not fish. Fish are not considered mammals like that. They pour away the blood and they salt the meat to draw as much of the blood out as possible. You are not, it's a Torah prohibition. Asur to drink the blood, the dam of the animal. It is totally, it's part of kashrut. So they always will purify and will remove the blood, wash it away, and they'll salt meat in order to draw the blood out of it. It's called melicha, to draw the blood. Before you buy meat, it's done for you already. When I was a kid, I remember, I used to buy meat unkoshered, and they would take kosher salt. You know kosher salt? Why is it kosher salt? All salt's kosher. It's used for koshering. And they would pour it on, and it would draw out the blood. Not allowed to drink blood. Actually, human blood is also asur, but it's on a rabbinic level. When the Torah speaks about not drinking blood, it's referring specifically to blood of an animal. If you have blood on your finger, you shouldn't wipe it off like that. Right? But it's not a Torah prohibition, that's a rabbinic prohibition, that's the Rabbanan, still asur. If there's blood already in your mouth, that's okay.
What's ki adam nefesh?
Because the dam is the soul of the animal, and therefore it's going to affect you in some way, and therefore you're not allowed to eat the blood. Okay? Yeah.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
One is when you go to and you eat steak, like you're not allowed to have medium rare or rare.
Very, very good. You are allowed to medium rare, and by the way, that's the best way to eat it. or red meat, because what's coming out is just some hemoglobin, just some liquid that's in the tissues. That's not the blood. Mutar legamre. You go to a kosher restaurant and say, give me the rarest steak you have. If it's kosher and it's been salted, absolutely okay.
Okay, the second question is, when you buy the stuff from the supermarket, there's always blood on it.
That's not blood, once again. That's not blood. That is just some liquid, it's a little bit red, that's inside the tissues. That's not considered, the blood has been poured away. So it's red and it's a liquid, but that's not considered to be
So if
blood.
someone has steak and all of the water
No
comes out,
problem.
you can drink the water?
Yes, 1000%.
Question.
One, you want to get, it's not blood.
Always
It's
tell me
okay.
that.
You should.
If you want to do that, go right ahead. Once it's been killed and shechter off. So every kosher animal, fish, not fish, chicken, birds, and meat has to have shechita, has to be killed in a very clear halachic way. That is by a shochet who has an extremely sharp knife. It can have no nicks or notches in it at all. They take this very, 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 I mean, it's like super, super sharp. They cut through the neck at a certain point, and it renders the animal dead, and that is how you do it. And before they do it, they draw their nail over the blade to make sure there's no, just gently put the nail up to make sure there's no nicks in it whatsoever. If there were any grooves or nicks in the knife, it would render the animal not kosher.
I have to do it with the no machines?
Nope. It's a person comes along, slice the neck, shechts it, and that has to be, yeah, it's a lot of work. That's why kosher meat is so expensive, yeah.
How can veal be kosher if it's like the animal is suffered before?
Okay, so that's a very good question. That would not render it non-kosher, but there is another area called tsar balei chayim. Causing pain to animals is asur. It's actually, did you know that you are obligated to feed your animals before you eat? That is a mitzvah. To feed, before you eat, you must, if you have a pet dog or fish, that you not drink. You're allowed to drink before your animal, but you have to feed your animal first. That is a halacha. So much so that if you wash your hands, famotzi, and you're about to, you're not allowed to speak, right? And you want to eat the bread, you're allowed to say, oh, did you feed the animal? And go feed the animal before you break the bread, because you're not allowed to eat the bread until you fed the animal first. So the tsar balei chayim, mistreatment of animals, that's why Jews don't go hunting. You're not just go kill an animal for fun and sport, unless you want to trap it and kill it and eat it. You can't do that. It is asur. It is forbidden to go hunting and just shoot animals for the sake of it. Right? For a Jew. A non-Jew is something else.
What if you eat them?
What?
What if you eat them?
That's fine. If you, of course, you got to eat it. That's fine. If you're fishing to go catch the animal and eat it, that's fine. But just hunting for the sake of it, right? And then you just dispose of it. But it's a problem if you're hunting, because if you shoot that deer, you can't eat it because it's rendered a trefa. A trefa means that it has an injury that would kill it within 12 months, and that renders it not kosher. Okay, so trefa, when you say treif, we use that word treif for all non-kosher food, but it's actually specifically talking about one type of thing that's a lesion or an injury that would kill that animal naturally within 12 months. Okay, there's a story of the Rambam, who had a very good relationship with the Yemenite. Anyone Yemenite over here? The Yemenites? Okay. And okay, good, let's talk about them. There was a Yemenite community who was spiritually under attack by a number of forces and false messiahs actually in Yemen. They used to write to the Rambam for help, and the Rambam used to answer them. And you should know that to this day Yemenites revere the Rambam more than anyone else. And he wrote letters to them. And there was a story, I don't know how true it is, but it's a famous story that a lot of the kids were becoming irreligious. And this was I knew because the Yemenite community was a very strong, religious, Jewish community. So you know what happened? He wrote back and said, go check the knife of the shochet. Check the shochet's knife. And they checked it, and they saw the knife was not kosher, which rendered the animals, like these kids were eating not, and they fixed it, and they sharpened the knife, and all the animals they killed were now kosher, and they started coming back religious again.
No way.
They fixed the whole community. So from that, and stories like that, the Rambam, and he helped with a lot of false messiahs in Yemen that had emerged in the 11, 12, 13, 1400s was a big problem. The Rambam helped them with that as well. So to this day, Yemenite Jews, they go like the rest of us, go like the Shulchan Aruch, Rav Yosef Karo, but the Yemenites go with the Rambam, which is why Yemenites actually speak between washing their hands and eating bread. Because the Rambam says it's not an introduction, it's not an interruption.
My Yemenite friend just told me that. That's so funny.
Yeah. Okay? Insects. All insects are not kosher. That's why you need to check your vegetables. Guys, you're being too loud in the back. I'm sorry. If you want to talk, guys, friends, Morocco, shh. If you want to talk, you can go outside. I have to get the information today. All insects are not kosher except for one insect the Torah itself tells us is kosher. Does anyone know what that insect is?
Grasshopper. Like the plague? Or no?
Yes, it is. One of the makot. It's the chagav. The chagav. The chagav is the... So it's probably a grasshopper. And there's many different types of them. But one grasshopper is kosher. Now, most people lost the Masorah, exactly how to identify. It has to have certain identifying traits, the wings in a certain way, the legs. But the Yemenites had that tradition, and Yemenite Jews to this day will eat the grasshopper. So is the grasshopper meat or is it milk? Is it an animal? Is it an animal? And the answer is, it is neither. It's parv. It's parv. Therefore, it does not need shchita. So you could technically just take it and bite straight into it.
Yeah.
I don't suggest it, but it is totally kosher.
Yeah, we can put it on top of mac and cheese.
By the way, I'm now seeing a lot of Ashkenazim are relying upon the Yemenites and eating grasshoppers now. They say they're a very good source of protein, by the way. Very good. Help I guess the thought of it nauseates us, we're not used to it. But, by the way, chicken, is it meat, milk, parv, what is it?
Well, I think it used to be parv.
So it never used to be parv. It's always been considered meat, but there is an opinion in the Gemara. Rav Yosef Glili from the Gemara, he said it's parv. Everyone disagreed with him, and we give it the status of meat because they say meat and chicken are always sold together. And by the way, to this day, go to the supermarket, they always put meat and chicken together in the same. It's poultry. We put it together. So we give the same status as meat. We do not make any differentiation whatsoever between chicken and meat, which takes us to the most strictest area of kosher. The strictest area of kosher, which is basar b'chalav. Basar and chalav. Meat and milk. Now I say the strictest because, well, you can tell me why, but the combination of meat and milk together really are the most important and most strictest area. There's going to be 3 prohibitions when it comes to meat and milk, unlike the other ones. Number 1 is you cannot eat it. Achila is forbidden. Of course, you cannot eat it. 2, you cannot cook it together. Even if you're not going to eat it, it is forbidden to take meat and milk and cook them together. That's called bishul. Bishul is eating.
Even if technically you're doing it for a goy?
Yes, you cannot take meat and milk, right? Because you're being paid to do it, and you're getting benefit.
You can't get benefit.
You cannot even get benefit from a mixture of meat and milk. There's no hana'ah.
I have a question.
You cannot give benefit. That means, one second.
Sorry.
That means that you're not going to eat it, and you're not going to cook it, but you're going to benefit from it by feeding it to one of your pets, or by selling it. You can't even do that when it comes to meat and milk. It's a big I saw 3 things.
How do you
Why?
pronounce
Achila, bishul, hana.
So like a Jew can have like a non-kosher restaurant.
It's a problem. I mean, you could, but you can't sell meat and milk that are cooked together. I mean, it could be that this only refers to kosher meat and milk, by the way, which means that a restaurant in Israel where only kosher meat is available, only kosher milk, would be more problematic than, I don't know, a McDonald's potentially. Yeah.
What if you want to like? What if a friend asks you to buy them a non-kosher meal?
Very good question. A Jewish person, that's called lot of. You cannot put a stumbling block in front of the blind, which is not literally. It means you cannot enable. Thank you. Enable another Jew to do a sin, and therefore giving a Jew non-kosher food is a big no. No. Okay? That'll be a problem. That'll be a problem. Now, you are allowed to sell non-kosher food to non-Jewish people. That's okay. That you can do. You just can't sell meat and milk. A lot of animals that are killed, they're found out to be not kosher after they kill the animal. They sell to the non-Jewish market. They have to, or they'd lose a lot of money. A lot of animals they kill actually are because of the various injuries and lesions, especially in the lungs. They're like, this isn't kosher, this animal, and therefore they have to sell it to the non-kosher market. That's fine. You just can't sell meat and milk that is cooked together. Leah.
Does dog food have to be kosher?
Doesn't have to be kosher.
Dog food? But
Dog food does not need to be kosher. It just cannot have meat and milk put in it.
What about during like Passover?
Passover, you cannot give your dog chametz. You don't have to give it food. If you own the dog over Pesach, you would have to give it food that has not got chametz in it because you cannot benefit from chametz either. I want to mention something else 1 second. There's also a division between, as you know, eating meat and milk, and also milk and meat. People don't realize that because it's a lot more common that eating meat and then milk becomes a problem.
Milk and meat is Kabbalah, right? It's like in the Kabbalah says that if you don't wait a certain amount
It's
of
not the Kabbalah. Shulchan Aruch says it. You have to wait between meat and milk. Now do the Kabbalah. Maybe Kabbalah speaks about
It's
it.
not a custom.
Not a custom. It is a halacha.
What about if you wash
It is a clear halacha. Now, why and how long? Why you have to wait and how long? So let's look at why. Why do we wait between meat and milk? Yanni, what's up?
Why can you have dairy first?
Very good.
Let's
have a look. Let's have a look. Wait between basar and halal. First of all, why? So we're going to see 2 opinions. Rashi and the Rambam. Okay, number 1. Rashi tells us the reason you wait between meat and milk is because when you eat meat, it leaves a film of fat or juice in your mouth. Okay, it leaves a grease in mouth. So when you eat the milk, it's going to get together with that and you're going to ingest them both together. That's Rashi. The Rambam says no, when you eat meat, it leaves fibers in your teeth. And what happens is, when the milk or cheese or whatever goes in, and you're going to swallow both together. So therefore we have to wait. Now the Gemara does not tell us how long you have to wait. The Gemara does not tell us. It just says, misuda l'suda, from meal to meal. Okay? From meal to meal. Now, just for interest, we usually define this, and you said this a second ago, that meat is eaten and then milk. But actually, if there was a form of milk that does either of these, you would have to wait between milk and meat. Only a type of cheese. a cheese that is very hard, that has been aged for more than 6 months, would need to be waited for. So Parmesan cheese, you would need to wait after eating that till you eat milk. So the Gemara from Suda to Suda. So there are different opinions. The Zohar, the Kabbalah, and others say 1 hour is sufficient. And I think Dutch Jews from Holland, to this day, have a tradition. They wait 1 hour between meat and milk. And Parmesan cheese, or cheese that is aged for more than 6 months, from milk to meat. That's one opinion. Yeah.
There's a lot of speculations like owning animals that are not kosher.
You're allowed to own animal. You're allowed to own dog. Apir Kabbalah, maybe not. You're allowed to own those animals. There is a tradition in the Gemara that you should try not to be a pig farmer and own pigs. That's a rabbinic thing. They say something happened in history where Jewish people owned and reared pigs. They never ate them. They just reared them, and then some bad stuff happens. There's a tradition that we don't own pigs. Okay, but dogs and cats, you're allowed to do.
But because my dad heard because we just own a dog and someone told me they removed Parmesan from the house.
No, I don't believe that's really true.
To have dogs as pets.
That's you are allowed. You are allowed. Al pi Kabbalah, there's a certain tumah and impurity that comes to it. But there's many halachot that comes to treating the dog well. So yeah, but you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to own non-kosher animals. Just treat them well. Yala.
What about benefiting from back in the old days when they used pig fat or something? Would you be allowed to use that soap?
Yeah. Actually, not only that. My father, who should live and be well, who I just saw actually for the first time in 2 years this week, had to have a valve replacement in his heart. And they used, do you know what they used? You have a mechanical or a pig valve, because it always takes. They don't even know why. It takes. It always works. And he has a pig valve. That is no problem. I know there was someone told, one of my students said there was an episode of some doctor show of a religious person. Oh no, God. Okay, the typical Jewish producers, right? Because everyone makes these shows obviously Jewish, right? So they obviously went to Jewish day school. They're, let's make a story out of it. Complete nonsense. They don't know what they're talking about. It's totally okay to take a pig valve, but you can't eat it. Doesn't mean you can't use it to, you can wear a snakeskin belt. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's not totally okay. Okay, so fibers in the teeth. So how long is it? So what do you do? What's the weight doing? So the weight is rendering the grease or the fibers not really there anymore. Do you understand? So how long does that take? So the Shulchan Aruch says 6 hours, and Sephardim should wait 6 hours. Some people say 6 hours means in the 6th hour. So some people wait the majority of 5 and 30 cent majority, 5 to 31. Some say in the 6th hour means 5 and 1 minute. You should do what your tradition is. Now German Jews, this tradition, they wait 3 hours, right? Because in the winter, between lunch where meat is eaten, right, and dinner where they have milk, right, is a 3 hour gap. So there they will wait 3 hours. Again, it's a community thing, but you can't be like, oh, right, I'm sorry, but now I'm Ashkenazi, right, I'm doing 3 hours, right? Truth be told, if a person starts to get religious and wants to begin, you can begin with 1. 1 is good, but then, let's see, wow. Okay, so speak to me. Speak to me. So you do 1 hour is sufficient, and then you build up from there. But if you're a Sephardi, you should follow the Shulchan Aruch. You should go for 6. You have questions? Please ask. Yeah, Leah.
Okay. If it's about the grease and the stuff in your teeth, what if you just brush your teeth?
Very, very good. Leah's a good word. You know what? If it's all about fibers and grease, then just floss. So Jewish law doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. It's like me saying, you know what? Driving down the street, it's a red light. I'll make sure no one's passing. I'll go through the red light because I'm careful. Jewish law isn't made for one person. It's made for all the Jewish people. Okay? Called lo plug. We don't make individual rulings on a general scale. I have to prove to the police, I'll go through this red light, nothing's going to happen to me. And the answer is, so what? You're still going to get a ticket. Why? Why can't I go through the red light? Because that's the law. Because 1 out of every 1,000 is going to get into an accident. So you're right, you can be like, well, I'll be different, I'll floss. Maybe next time you won't. Maybe someone's not such a good flosser as you, right? Or don't brush their teeth as much as they should. Yeah? You with me? So Jewish law is always made for the population, like any law is. American law is made the same way.
What if I like mix it by accident?
You what?
What if I mix meat and dairy by accident?
Very good. There's something called bitul or batel ba shishim. Very nice. Yeah. But write it down, sisters. Batel ba shishim. Nullified 1 in 60. If you have a kosher pot of meat and you have someone working, or one of your kids drop some milk into that big pot, if there are 60 parts meat to 1 part milk, they are nullified. You can't actually not. You don't have to throw it away. That would be, a hefset, right? So you must eat that meat. If a mouse jumps into your cholent or your dafina or your choresh, into your meat stew, right? You gotta take it out. And then if there are 60 parts meat to 1 part, actually, by the way, it depends on the mouse. City mice, never learned this, you do rabbinical, are different from rural mice. Rural mice are considered to be cleaner. When it comes to city mouse, you don't need 1 in 60. It's so disgusting. You can just take it out and eat it straight away, even if it's not 1 in 60. A technical law. You think it's weird, right? It used to be little creatures like mice and all these things used to be all over the place. They would jump into your home, into your. Now we live in very, sanitized homes. But there used to be a big mice problem, right? And insects, make no mistake. Okay? So 1 in 60 nullifies it, and therefore, actually, in American law, I think it's 1 in 50. By the way, when it comes to non-permitted things inside the foods. Okay, I was going to leave out a hand of us, yeah.
I have 2 questions. So, meat from milk to meat 1 hour?
No. From meat to milk.
1 hour, that's it?
1 hour is sufficient, but we don't do that. Either do 3 hours if you're German. That means you're. You're Ashkenazi or Sephardi?
No, I don't know what
you
I am.
should do 6.
Okay. And from milk to meat?
Same thing. If the milk is a hard milk, like an aged cheese, right? Not the stuff found in American supermarkets, it's not even cheese, right? It's completely funny. I was in London and I was being driven by a taxi driver, a friend of mine, who was driving me. He has a taxi service. He says, could you pick me up some British cheese, some cheddar? That's real cheese. So I brought back a bag. I'm kidding you, I'm not kidding you. In my suitcase, a bag of hard cheeses. Even those are not. It's got to be aged, like French. There's like veiny ones that smell like feet. You know what I'm saying? By the way, it's the same bacteria in your feet. That's why it smells like feet. You didn't realize that. You're eating feet cheese, just so you know.
Oh my God.
I'm letting you know.
Is it good?
I can't. My father-in-law, you give him that smelly cheese, he's hopping it down. Oh my God. Right? Any Frenchies there? Those Frenchies, they love it over there. Right? Camembert, all the rest of them. By the way, cheese has to be kosher as well because they use a coagulator that is potentially not kosher. So cheese has to be kosher as well. The thing that makes it hard. Right? They use non-kosher products in there. Oh. Very, very good. In a second. Leo's asking, what about plates, pots and plates? Okay, hold on, we're going to get that in 1 second. Yeah.
So,
thanks for reminding me.
For weight between milk and meat, only if it's something hard, like you can.
Aged cheese.
Only that.
That's it.
Like you can wait a second, like drink milk and then.
Yes.
Steak.
Yes.
Don't even wash it.
No problemo,
señorita. I've waited an hour for no reason.
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
No, don't need to do it. Do whatever they want.
I can have pizza and then steak right after.
Between milk and meat, she's saying, they wait 2 hours. You do not need to wait.
But it makes it in the
You can't
stomach.
have
No, very good. Says Joe, but it makes it in the stomach, says Leah Shaw. Did we mention stomach? No, we didn't. No, people think that. It's nothing to do with digestion. It's the achila. Nothing to do with that. You don't have to go inside your stomach. See, I can see some meat in there. It's purely digestion. Olivia.
Aged cheese, I think.
Silence!
If this prohibition is so strong, if this prohibition is so strong,
yes.
There are 3 of them, then how can there be such discrepancies in time waiting?
Very, very good. So Isur is purely eating them together. Okay, the rabbis want to do distance us, like muksa, to keep us away. This waiting thing is purely rabbinic to help us not eat them together. So it shows how strict it is. They've even added an extra pretext, like Shabbat. We have muksa. Muksa is not, muksa, you cannot move forbidden items on Shabbat. That's purely rabbinic. It shows how strict Shabbat is. They wanted to keep us away and put a protection around it.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Also, like if a Dutch person married a German person.
Oh wow, Dutch and German person. Wow, that's a good shidduch.
Do they both wait their
It's
own
a
times?
very, very good question, and that comes down to Masorah. They can keep doing whatever they want to do. By the way, you don't have to. The custom has become that you follow the husband's law over there and their tradition, and the kids should follow the husband's, the man's, because Sephardi Ashkenazi, or in this case, it comes through the father's side. Judaism goes through the mother, but that goes through the father's side, so you should follow that tradition. However, things that are done privately, or it's hard to tell, you can rely upon it, so therefore she can keep doing what she did before, and he can do what he wants, but the kid should ideally follow the father's line when it comes to traditions that go by community, nationality, and traditions. With me?
Yeah.
But she can do what she wants. Like my wife still davens Nusach Sfarad, right? Because she comes from Hasidic stock, right? And I'm
Hasidic stock.
Sfaradi.
Wait, you're saying she changed like too?
No, she
No,
didn't.
she did.
She didn't. She didn't.
She's really Ashkenazi, I thought.
Oof, she's so Ashkenazi.
So
Wow.
why does she have in Sephardi?
No, because Sephardi is not Sephardi. That's more Hasidic.
Oh wait,
It's
what?
Hasidic. It's
Hasidic
close.
that means Sephardi.
It's different, very different. Not Sephardi, it's Sephardi. It's different. It's different. It's overlaps. Okay, we'll get to prayer. We'll discuss that. Yes, I want to get to Kalim. Shh.
If like all these things are rabbinic and like
Didn't say all these things. Most of them are Torah laws.
oh okay, but
Torah says you cannot lot of shall gidi b'chalevimah. Yeah.
okay, but the rabbinic laws like just in general, like not even for kashrut, like if you go against them, like are you going against God?
Absolutely. The Torah is given the Bnei Adam, and all of Judaism actually is rabbinic. I know the Christians hate this, and on my videos they leave crazy comments. Right, you bunch of rabbis, you Pharisees, blah 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 blah. Good for them. The Torah makes no sense without an oral explanation.
Like Shomer Nagia, you're going against God if you don't do
Yeah.
it.
How'd you get to that?
Like I'm just like
I know what you're thinking. Let's leave Hashem again. Let's get back to the food, okay? Okay, let's talk. Yeah, Mackenzie.
If I have my little and it's like a little bit more, could I add more meat to the
No, very good. You cannot. Very good. Hear the question? Can you add? Let's say you have 5 parts milk to meat. Can you add more milk? No, you cannot. No, that's the question. That's a very famous question. Lachatchila means before the act. You're proactively doing something beforehand in order to be mavatel. You're going to add a lot more milk. No. And you cannot add knowing full well on purpose. Only if it falls in by mistake.
What if it came to mistake where it's a little bit older and
No.
a little bit more chicken stock?
Dump it. Yeah.
2 questions.
Always 2 questions.
Okay. So if I mix by accident, can I give it to a non-Jew?
No problem.
Or should I
Meat and milk that are cooked together, you have to dispose of it, I believe, yeah.
rather than
Because you're getting benefit. Yeah, I think it's a problem, yeah. I don't think you can do that. I don't think so, no.
You just-
But general non-kosher, you can. Alright?
what is that?
I know.
Yeah, no, she had two left. Yes?
How does the microwave work?
Oh.
How does it work? It's electricity.
No,
You
my
press the
God.
buttons and it goes around. Radioactively nukes your food. Okay, fine. Let's talk about kalim. That's part of kalim. So kalim means pots and pans and the like. So not only
זה הכשר שלהם גם.
what?
לא, הכשר של הכלים. איך עושים את זה?
Utensils.
איך מכשירים את זה?
Huh?
מכשירים מקווה, איך עושים את זה?
Yeah, okay, let's go again. Wait. I got your sister. I got this.
Okay.
I got this. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm not a professional dancer. I'm a professor. We got this. Okay, let's talk kalim. Pots, pans, dishes. We could spend, when you become a rabbi, by the way, most of what you study is also kosher. It's a lot, what?
You can spend months.
Spend a lot of time on this. But I'll give you just the cliff notes, the bumper sticker version, because you all have major ADD. So let's do the kalim, and that's vessel. So let's start with the easy one first, and that is glass. Glass Does not absorb. You can use glass for meat and then milk. It does not absorb. So glass, like, give me a second, sister. I know you're excited, I love that. Believe me, but glass does not need to be kosher. Okay? You can use it for meat and then milk, as long as you wash in between, because it's so dense, it doesn't absorb. Then we come to metals, and this is the big one. Metals, right? You have zchuchit and matechet. Okay? So what are metal? So there is an idea that pots and knives and spoons absorb a taste. So if you have a metal spoon and you use that spoon in a hot meat dish, like soup. Okay, by the way, soup, even without chicken in it, that had chicken in it, is considered to be a meat soup, obviously, right? It's considered to be just like meat. So the spoon, the metal spoon or fork or knife, has absorbed some of the meat. Okay? Therefore, you should not use that spoon or knife or fork for dairy products. Why? Because it takes two things to transfer taste. Two things that transfer taste. You need heat and liquid. Okay? Which means, just think about it and stick with me. Let's say you have a big pot of meat and a big pot of milk, and they're on the fire, and those two pots touch each other. Do you have heat and liquid?
No.
You have heat but no liquid. It's not a problem. Let's say in the fridge you have meat and milk, right? A piece of cheese and a piece of meat, and the two touch each other. And the two touch each other. Yeah. And the two touch each other. What happens? The two have touched each other, but there's no liquid in it. They just touch each other, and therefore you just wipe it off. You're okay. You need to have both of these. So if you put a spoon into a pot, it's got heat and liquid, and it absorbs a certain amount. We don't know how much exactly, but it absorbs. How do I get that out? Can you remove that little trace of meat or milk inside? Right, it's called hagalah, and that is to boil up. So when you put it into water, just the way it absorbed, right? Kabbalah kach polto. It's called the way it took it in, take it out. So for example, if you were to inherit meat cutlery from a non-Jewish person or a Jewish person who didn't keep kosher, take a big thing of boiling water, put it in, a little bit of bubbles come up, it's done. That is now being kosher. What does that mean? The taste has been taken out. You take a non-kosher fork. It's been used for pigs, whatever. You take a pot of water. You boil it up. If there's 60 parts, one to the other, you then take that, put it in, goes completely into the boiling water, and the water boils. Sometimes it cools it down. The water boils afterwards. That non-kosher taste has come out, and that knife or fork or spoon is considered to be brand new. You can use it for whatever you want. We all do this pretty much on Pesach. On Pesach, we assume there's a little bit of taste of chametz. You can take a purely metal, it has to be complete metal, pots, pans, right? Knives, throw it into a pot, it boils up, it's now okay to be used on Pesach. The same thing that was cutting bread and meat during the year can now be used on Pesach. Okay? It's removed. Plastic and wood, we're not sure. We don't kosher them. We do not kosher them. I want to make one more thing. This is very, very important. Très important. When you buy a new glass or metal item, metal or glass, and only those two, not ceramic, not pottery, not wood, not plastic, but metal or glass, brand new from a non-Jewish person, you are tovel them, you put them into a mikvah. This is not koshering them, because it's never been used before. It's got no non-kosher stuff inside it. You take it, you put it into a mikvah for kelim, a kelim mikvah, a mikvah that's created for with rainwater to purify it. It goes in, it comes out, and now it can be used by you. Got it? That is not koshering. Koshering is to take the meat or the milk that is embedded in that meat or milk thing. Now we go a little bit further, 1 second. Say with a pot. You have a pot and it's being used for, what are you going to do? You can kosher it by putting boiling water. The water spill over the sides, boiling water, and that koshers the item itself. All of this because we don't want to even mix the taste of the meat and the milk. So much more to say on this board. Let's get to 2 questions. Yes, Mackenzie?
Metal pan, ceramic coating. Toivo?
Metal pan.
That's like a non-stick ceramic.
Those are difficult to kosher, but wouldn't need to vila. If it's a metal item, yeah, I believe so. I believe so. However, China today, it used to be they would put like a glass covering, like a very thin glass covering on it. We don't do it nowadays. Even fine bone china, I think for the most part, you don't need to tovel. I bought mugs, right? Real bone china mugs when I was in London, all right, this week for my family. It says fine bone china, does not need to vila. Wash it, good to use straight away. Good? Yeah.
What about like the pot that you're, like, let's say you have the spoon, the not kosher spoon, and you're boiling it in the pot.
Pot's fine because it's gone into the water and it's nullified. So it's lost any significance. Got it? Yeah.
What if you make like chicken soup in a pot?
Chicken soup in a pot.
Right, and then it finishes, you wash the pot, whatever. And
Empty the pot out.
Huh?
You washed it now.
Yeah, yeah, and then the next time you make like a parv soup.
Yes.
In that pot.
Yes.
Is it parv?
Yes.
Or is it not?
It's parv.
Okay.
It's parv. It cannot affect it in any way. Yeah.
You're not washing it though with the boiled water.
I understand. Just take it. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, 2 questions. But the first one, is there such thing as glass cutlery?
If there was, you could use it.
No, I'm genuinely asking, like, because I just looked it up. But can it?
I've never heard of it, but there's glass plates, which people, when I was at university, I used glass plates because I was too lazy to have meat and milk and spend the money, you know? So we use glass plates for everything.
So then, when
by the way, that's different to Pyrex. Pyrex, you know Pyrex?
What is that?
Yeah.
Fake
Pyrex.
It's not like
Not
Pyrex.
Should I go
Pyrex?
Pyrex is a
I'm sorry, I don't feel you today, sister. Okay, yeah. Annie speaking. Oh, Pyrex is not considered glass, by the way. It's problematic. It's a form of glass. You'll look it up, but it's smoky glass. It's not considered dense enough. Yeah.
What about like plastic plates and knives and like forks?
So, once you use it for meat, you should not use it for anything else, and it's impossible to kosher.
But you don't have to tovel it.
No, does not need to be. Tvila is only glass and metal.
Wait, if it's not koshering it, then what is it? Taking it to the mikveh.
What?
Like taking it to the mikveh.
That's a rabbinic thing that you're kind of like re-giving it the
It's
purpose.
not from the Torah?
No, it's rabbinic.
So what is it for?
Just a new way to prepare this item for kosher use now. Yeah. But you're not taking out the fact, when you kosher something, you're doing a technical thing. You're boiling it up to get that non-kosher food out of it. Yeah.
Onion.
Yeah? Okay. It gets tricky.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't like reuse
Okay, so a
it.
sharp food item is considered to be like a fire that draws the flavor out. So, I can't go into it now. Just keeping meat and milk separate when it comes to onions as well. Now, this goes to dishwasher. It's dishwasher. You put in. Now, truth be told, people have 2 dishwashers. Truth be told, there are many opinions. Some Sfardim rely upon this to this day. That as long as you cook them one after the other, because soap is added and it takes away any taste in the items between. So technically, you could use the same dishwasher as long as soap's added for meat and then for milk. You probably should not put meat and milk dishes in at the same time, because the jet of hot water is going to take some of the meat, throw it onto the plate, and cook it into the plate. You know, say the milky plate, so it's problematic. But one after the other, probably okay. But most people, even today, are careful and will have separate bowls, something else, in order to, yeah.
I'm just wondering, like, like I also grew up like this. Like, why is it so accepted that people are like kosher meat out, but not kosher dairy out?
do not know. There is no difference. I know people grow up like this.
Yeah.
Exactly the same thing. It is asur.
Like, what do you say to someone who like doesn't understand why you?
It's part of the same. They don't understand the laws of kosher, right? And non-kosher cheese it's used right, or it's been cooked in ovens where meat is being pots and pans. It's a problem. Plus insects. They go into the salad. They don't clean it properly enough. Very problematic. The mint they put on stuff. Insects in the vegetables and stuff. You know, and the cheese has to be kosher.
What if you can't see? Like it's a very small.
Halacha does not. If it's not visible to the human eye, right? Then it's not. But if it's visible to the human eye, even naturally, then it's.
The Rebbitzin of my shul doesn't eat strawberries because of
Yeah, some people are very strict because there's little white seeds in them. You'll see videos. Yeah, but the way that you have to look on is where to kosher them and clean them, and you basically cut the top half, wash it off, put it in soapy water, and if it's mixed up then it's okay. Yeah.
With the mikveh kelim, I heard that like you can ask a guy to say like, okay, I lend this to you and you don't need to do it.
Okay, technically you could get away with that. I understand, but that's if you're in a situation where you have to. Okay, end of class. We're done. We'll pick this up next class. We'll finish on some more questions. Yeah.
So, like when we were going